Hi, it's Rob Moore here, and I am with the amazing leaders, James and Izzy. You can probably tell who is James and who is Izzy. Izzy is 11 and James is not 11. And Izzy and James have a podcast called Amazing Leaders, and they'd like to interview me on, I guess, all things leadership. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast, Izzy and James. We're live streaming out to some of my channels. I think my Facebook page, I think The Disruptive Entrepreneur, I think LinkedIn, I think YouTube. If you're watching on any of these channels live, by the way, and you've not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm all yours, Izzy. James, ask me anything you like. I'm your humble servant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob, and welcome to the Amazing Leaders podcast, where we're going to ask you some questions, both from myself and from my daughter, Izzy, too. So I share some things quite similar, actually. We were both born in 1979, I believe. My first job, the same as I believe Rob's, was bottling up in a pub. And also, we both had two children. So this is one of mine. This is Izzy, who's 11, and I've got Georgina, who is also 13, and my daughter as well. The first question, Rob, is going to come from Izzy. Over to you.
A few weeks ago, I interviewed the Prime Minister at my school. And we got to ask him a few questions, and I asked him what job he wanted to do when he was growing up. So what job did you want to do when you were growing up?
I was confused when I was growing up. So I never really asked myself enough what I want to do with my life. And I always say to people who aren't sure what their passion or profession or mission or vision is, I always say to people, ask yourself every day at least once, what do you want to do with your life? So honestly, Izzy, until age 25, I wasn't sure. I thought at one point I wanted to be a golfer because I was a single figure handicapper when I was young, but I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't believe I could be good enough, even though, some of the best golfers didn't even start until their teens. At one point, I thought I wanted to be an artist because I was good at art, but really that was more a hobby. And when I tried it as a career, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But then when I got into property, age 26, it was a bit by accident, Izzy, but I realized then that business, entrepreneurship, and then all the things that come with it, like writing books and doing podcasts and interviews and running companies and helping other people grow their businesses, I realized that was my calling. So that's a long way of saying I didn't know until I was 26. So if you do it at 11, Izzy, you're a long way ahead of me.
That's good. So, she got to interview Boris Johnson last week and now Rob Moore this week. I can't wait to see who she's going to interview the following week. But it's been pretty interesting couple of weeks, hasn't it? Which is good. So one question from me, Rob, is what's the best piece of leadership advice that you've ever heard?
I think that a great leader helps create other great leaders. So I think there's lots of definitions of leadership, such as having a vision, or someone who's got the courage to go where others don't. Or maybe someone who puts a team together, someone who manages vertically down. But for me, it's not just about taking a team forward. It's actually it's almost the opposite of that. It's almost about getting out of the way of your team and developing other leaders. So the thing with leadership, if it's hierarchical, or autocratic, is that the word? Or it can become a bit dictatorial, or if it's based on power or pay or position, people will step up for sure, but they're not doing it for you. They're doing it for them, and they'll only really stay loyal while they're getting paid or they're getting their needs met. But I think if you can make others believe in themselves, give them the resources, the skills, the faith, the belief, the confidence, the support, the loyalty required, bring them up to a level equal to you, then get out of their way and then let them go beyond you. I believe that's great leadership.
Absolutely. I think that's not just great leadership, but it's also the fun part of leadership, that you can actually see people developing and growing and really sort of coming into their own and their own style. I love that part about leadership, which often we don't realize when we're younger. It's something that we have to really experience as we grow up and as we get a little bit older as well. So I think that's really sound advice. Thanks, Rob. At the moment, Rob, we're filming live from our home in France. We are UK residents. We live in the UK, but we're on holiday at the moment in our home in the Dordogne in France. So Izzy had a question around that kind of thing, really, and to do with property as well.
Do you have a favourite place in the world where you either already have a house or would like to have a house?
This is really sad, and it's a terrible answer, but my favourite place in the world is Peterborough, and my favourite house in the world is where I live. I have this huge outdoor gym. I have this big long garage with a glass wall where I can see all my cars. We built a huge extension on the back of an old house. It's a 7-bedroom house. It's as close to town as you get for the size of the house, because normally a house in town, they're not big houses. So I don't want to be anywhere else in the world. Otherwise, I'd have gone there, because I'm in the fortunate financial position where I can go and live in Cayman, or I can go and live in Dubai or whatever. So I am a little bit of a homeboy. My parents are just down the road. My sister's just down the road. My company's just down the road. Town's just over there. The train station means I'm 45 minutes from London. So if I want to get a bit of the London vibe, but then I can leave the London life when I feel like a bit of a rat in a rat race, because it's a bit overpopulated for my liking. So I don't want to be anywhere else. And when I was in my late teens, all the way up to mid-20s, everyone would talk about leaving Peterborough. It was like, if you stayed in Peterborough, you were sad. There was something wrong with you. Everyone had to leave Peterborough. But what I found is people who are leaving Peterborough were searching for something that they didn't realize they already had. So I love it here. I do like going to Dubai, and I do like going to the Cayman Islands. I do like hopping around the beautiful Italian and Spanish cities. And the one place, or the two places maybe, that I've not been that I'd love to go is Hawaii and Miami.
Excellent. So they're on your list somewhere to visit.
Yeah.
You mentioned there your garage that you can see with your glass. Now, I know because I've seen some of your lives, but I don't know that Izzy knows. Could you just tell her maybe a couple of the special cars that are in that garage?
Yeah. So I have a 1987 Ferrari Testarossa with just a few miles on it. It was my favourite classic car growing up. And I have a Lamborghini Aventador, which is a high-end supercar. And to be honest, I spend more time looking at them than I do driving them. Mark and I often had this joke. We should sell the engines, get 20 or 30 grand each for the engines, and just leave the cars in the garage and look at them. And I remember speaking to Quentin Wilson on my podcast, who was on Top Gear at one time. And he said sometimes he'd wake up in the middle of the night and walk down into his garage in his slipper and his dressing gown, and he'd just look at some of his cars, and he'd sit in some of his cars. And that would often be as much enjoyment as it would driving them around. And I certainly feel like that, because owning the Testarossa, which was my favorite car growing up, it really is. It's a physical material item which really manifests and possesses my dreams and hopes as a child in a physical form. So it's far more than just a car. And yeah, I mean, I drive that a few hundred miles a year. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of nice cars. And, that's nice. I try not to let them. I think cars can make a good servant, but you don't want to be a slave to them.
Lovely. Yep. No, I mention it because Izzy loves Lamborghinis as well, don't you?
Well, there you go.
Both of them. Which is great. A question for me, Rob, is who are the leaders that you look up to and learn from? And that can be current ones or past ones.
I mean, I would say the ultimate leader right now, and I am biased, but that's Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool football manager. Because I think if you look at any manager alive, he seems to inspire the players. He seems to know when to back off and, let them lead. He talks all of them up. He never throws his players under the bus. He never criticizes them publicly. Even when they leave, he speaks really well of them. He's created a culture where You don't have to have 11 superstars. Obviously, we've got a great squad, but we haven't, spent 100 million on every single player. I mean, Andy Robertson was £8 million, who's probably the best left back in the country. So yeah, I think that he's created a great cult. I think he's enthusiastic. I think he's charismatic. I think he's passionate. I think he knows how to be interviewed well. He's got this radiant smile all the time. He looks like he loves football and he loves his players and he loves the team and the squad. And he would probably be in my top 5 all-time interviews for my podcast. I think there's many amazing leaders out there for different reasons. I mean, I think Alex Ferguson of Manchester United clearly was an amazing leader, but in a totally different way with a different culture. But right now even Man U, I know Man U fans who are friends of mine, and they hate saying it, but they love Klopp. So, I'm hoping now it's out of season, we can get him on my podcast.
Wonderful. That's good. And I think it's interesting, isn't it, that a lot of people would overlook football generally to look at people to aspire to. But you mentioned Alex Ferguson there, decades he was at Man U for. And to keep that level of players from all over the world as well, some of them didn't even hardly speak any English, to be able to lead them and to do as well as they did is something that we can definitely learn from in leadership in general, in business as well as in sports. So it's good. Okay, now this is a slightly tricky question, but I think you might know the answer to this one.
How many houses do you already have, and what is your goal number of houses?
Okay, so my portfolio's bit mixed. So some I own on my own, some I own with my business partner, some my business partner and I own with other partners. One of our properties has 100 houses or dwellable units within it because it's a great big department centre that we're converting into 100 flats. We have a letting agency that manages our properties as well. So individual units, i.e. dwellings, whether that's quite a big room in a multi-let or whether it's an actual flat or a house, it's about 850.
Wow. And have you got a goal number of houses that you're aspiring to? Or?
No, I mean, I couldn't even tell you out of those 850, which ones are mine, which ones are Mark's, which ones do we co-own with our family, which ones do we co-own with our partners, which ones are rooms, which ones are flats, which ones are houses. I couldn't even tell you. So no, I mean, Mark and I have got 2 big projects and when I say Mark, it's my business partner, Mark Comer. So we've got 2 what we would regard as big projects for us. So one is 85,000 square foot and we're building 2 floors above it. That'll be in the end, that'll be about £22 million GDV gross value, which if you took that and put it in Kensington, it could be 200 million. It's a big place. And that's going to be, the first floor is still a big department store. And then the second, third, fourth floors are going to be all the dwellings. And we're still developing that. We're still building it. We've just put the steel frame above onto the roof. That's going to be probably 18 months, 2 years until that's done. And we bought a big Poundland store with a few stories above on the other side of the road. This is in the centre of town in Peterborough. And we've got to develop that out. So right now we've got enough work. Sometimes you have to know when to just carry on doing what you have done or you are doing as opposed to starting too many new things. Also, I think the market's going to probably slow down or drop a bit. I don't think that drop that maybe a lot of us thought was coming has happened yet or has happened as quickly. And I wouldn't be surprised if the end of 2020, early to mid 2021, prices will drop a bit. And then that would be a better time to buy. And it's not like I'm waiting. I think the best time to buy is now. And you can only buy a deal on the numbers today. But Mark and I have got enough going on. We also have training businesses. I have my social media brand. I'm writing 3 books. I have my 2 podcasts. People forget I have a family as well.